So let's raise some big questions and troubling questions tonight. What will it first take to stop the hate speeches, the mob lynching? Is law not enough to curb these acts of hate, particularly against minorities? Why do people seem to get away with these attacks on minorities? And the bulldozer justice, is it simply anti-constitution what's going on? I'm joined by three very special guests, all distinguished. Jungs is former Delhi Lieutenant Governor. Dushyant Dave is Senior Advocate Supreme Court. He appeared today in the bulldozer justice case. And P.K. Jain is former ADG Maharashtra. I'm going to come to each of you to get your sense of how you see what we are seeing in this country from time to time, mob lynching, hate speeches, particularly against minorities. Dushyant Dave, why don't you take the floor first then?
Well, so far as the hate speeches are concerned, and the demolition by using bulldozers are concerned, these are all, acts against minority community. And we have been seeing, at least since 2014, that these incidents have increased exponentially, simply because the executive, the police particularly, is more often than not party to it. And it is acting at the instance of the party in power at the center or in the state, which are BJP states. Unfortunately, nobody, in the government, in the police, really thinks that these kind of incidents must be stopped. We have seen, a former minister making a very serious statement in Delhi when the, CA protests were going on, saying "Gaddaro ko goli se maro," and no action was taken. If it was done by
just a fact check. The minister you were talking about, Anurag Thakur, he said "Desh ke gaddaro ko," and the audience then shouts "Goli maro salo ko."
It was all orchestrated.
Okay.
But anyway, the whole thing is that this kind of approach, this kind of an atmosphere, unfortunately, is not in consonance with the Constitution. One of the most important part of our Constitution, the preamble, talks about fraternity. And fraternity is so important because that's what Ambedkar stressed at a great length in his Constituent Assembly debates. We have to have fraternity. With about 150 million Muslims in this country, it would be well impossible for us to really continue to behave the way we are doing in last about 10 years. And particularly this aspect of demolition of homes is a medieval punishment which is not even provided in the Indian Penal Code, or for that matter even in the new law that Shri Amit Shah ji has brought, the new IPCs, whatever they call it. So I feel that it is not right because these are all cases which essentially 99% cases are relating to the Muslims who, for one reason or the other are being targeted. Somebody has fallen in love and has gone away with a Hindu girl, so they go to his house and demolish it. Somebody is alleged to have spat on a Ram Navami procession, so his house is, attacked. And so in Delhi, for example, in Jahangirpuri, the police stopped VHP and Bajrang Dal from carrying out the procession, and they lodged an FIR against them, despite their, saying no. They carried out. Some, incident took place, and next day, the BJP president writes a official letter to the mayor of New Delhi, North Delhi Municipal Corporation and the police that be ready, tomorrow you must start demolition. And the demolition starts when I mentioned it to Chief Justice Ramna's court. And I must say, with a great, sense of pride and satisfaction that Chief Justice Ramna acted immediately, although even a petition was not filed at that point of time. And he granted a status quo. Now, these incidents, unfortunately, are completely contrary to Article 21, which is right to life, which includes right to shelter, and also Article 20, which says nobody can be given punishment which is not provided by law. Right. Now, punishment of demolition of house can never be provided because it has nothing to do with the alleged accused. It has to do with the family. You are therefore now targeting the whole family and punishing the whole family. This does not augur well for a democracy as liberal as we claim to be. We have a beautiful history of 5,000 years of a liberal approach in this country. And this kind of a thing, I may say, is perhaps the saddest commentary on this government. Prime Minister talks about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Yet, he has not been able to stop this. He has not said once that these demolitions must stop. And openly, the BJP governments are encouraging these demolitions. Their MLAs, elected representatives, are standing most times or many times when demolitions take place, and police acts only as per their specific directions.
Can I just stop you? Can I just stop you? You've raised several issues. You've both focused on the hate speech as well as on what is being described as bulldozer justice, and you are rightly pointing out it is fundamentally against the Constitution. You've also referred to the police, and at that time I want to bring you in, Mr. P.K. Jain. You've been a former DG of police in Maharashtra. We've seen the kind of hate speech that a sitting MLA has put today. Yes, he's been charged, FIRs have been filed, but we don't know whether he will be actually prosecuted and arrested. Who knows, he'll get a ticket and contest the elections and win. Dushyant Dave says the police has a big role, whether it's in bulldozer justice, where they short-circuit processes, or whether they act selectively in hate speeches. The police has much to answer for. Your response, sir.
Namaskar, Rajdeep. Thank you very much. I have heard Mr. Dave in detail. The fact remains that it is always action and reaction. On a very innocuous kind of a debate on the TV, if a lady like Nupur Sharma can be doled out threats of Sar Tan Se Juda, and then massive processions are taken out all over the country, again saying the same naras, it creates a lot of reaction in the other communities also. Unfortunately, the communal passion is being fueled not only by one particular community, by certain insane elements from all the communities. And that is what results into, the responsible people and the public representatives also taking that kind of a line.
No, but sir, the public with due regard, sir, the public representatives take an oath on the constitution of this country. My point is, Mr. Nitesh Rane has taken whether it is Nitesh Rane or anyone, Hindu, Muslim, no. Look at what has happened. Omar Khalid has spent 4 years in jail without even a trial yet, no bail for an alleged hate speech. And Nitesh Rane will probably contest the next election. Where is the even-handedness, sir? That's my point. Where is the police? Is the police simply acting on directions of its political masters?
See, the police can act on the directions of the political masters for 24 hours. After that, the courts take over. It is the court which has to keep an accused in the jail or bail him out. So if the court takes a view that a person has to stay behind the bars for 4 years, so be it. The police has no role in this. The police will, in their own wisdom, they will keep opposing the petitions for bail. But it is for the courts to decide whether a person should remain there or not. That is one. Secondly, the similar speeches were given by the Owaisi brothers. What action was taken? Were they arrested? They were not arrested. So for the high and mighty in this country, if you think that arrest and subsequent prosecution takes place, it is a myth. I always keep saying that a person who has got the resources or the clout, he can never be punished. It is very difficult to punish him. They can go from one court to another and right up to the Supreme Court, they got the wherewithal to fight it. So the justice is never given.
Sir, with due regard, you're telling me a police officer cannot stop the high and mighty from getting away. Is that what you're telling me, that a Nitesh Rane has that much clout that he can get away?
It is not a question of Nitesh Rane, Rajdeep. Please understand, the police has filed a case. They will prosecute him. They will charge sheet the case. After charge sheet, the case is taken over by the public prosecutors. And who appoints the public prosecutors? The government. And then the courts.
Okay.
So it is a very long fight for justice, and for a person to get convicted, it's a very, very long fight. What I'm trying to say is that the system unfortunately is weighed in a manner that a person who has got the resources will keep fighting in the courts, right from the lower court to the highest court.
I take your point. And I'm going to ask my producer not to show those close-ups of that man being lynched. They are unacceptable, and they will only in some way, perhaps for some, inflame passions further. Najib Jung, your response, you've been a former senior IAS officer, former LG of Delhi, you've been raising these issues from time to time. Your reaction to what we are seeing around us happening when it comes to hate speech and bulldozer justice?
Rajdeep, number one, I am really sorry to be hearing what Mr. Jain has been saying and defending the police. It is really unfortunate that the highest echelons of the police are indeed having such a warped process of thinking. That's one. Now, coming back to what's happening, I think that the political leaders in this country, which includes the chief ministers, have forgotten their oath to the constitution. The Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, on a daily basis, violates the constitution. He can call out a journalist because his name is Muslim. He can call out a university which is not even in Assam and blame it for the floods in Guwahati. Now, obviously, something is seriously wrong because they can get away with such nonsense. So when the leaders, and I could not hear very well because the audio was not so good, but when you hear, we had in the 2020 riots, a leader of the BJP standing next to the DCP and giving the protesters 20 minutes to clear out. We've had an honorable minister, and you quoted him saying, Goli Maro. We've had a honorable MP within the precincts of parliament using language which you and I cannot utter in our drawing rooms. We've had another MP from Delhi using language which is abhorrent. So therefore, because you can get away with whatever Mr. Jain may say, because you get away with it repeatedly, and the signal comes from the top. The speeches we have heard during the parliament elections give, shall I say, a license to the foot soldiers to speak the way they do. And we've been seeing it, the advantage. You tried this with the Sikh community, they call them Khalistanis, and now the thing is turned to Muslims.
How do you respond? If I may ask, how do you respond though? There'll be those who will say, what if a Muslim mob on the street says, Sartan se juda? This is what Nitesh Rane is saying. I am reacting to such statements. There almost seems to be an equivalence which is being attempted to be drawn. How would you respond?
I entirely agree with you. I entirely agree with you that all lawless elements have to be put down very, very ruthlessly.
Absolutely.
No religious community is away from this nonsense. Having said that, the Muslims, of course, are getting the worst of the stick at the moment, but they cannot be absolved. They absolutely cannot be absolved of behaving in irresponsible manner. I mean, I live in Old Delhi, and I know the misbehavior that these young Muslim youths can cause, riding their motorcycles, or in Delhi on the evening of Shab Barat, when you see these motorcyclists misbehaving on the streets of Delhi. Of course, we know it. And it must be brought down very, very strongly. But that doesn't take away the substance of your debate this evening. And what Mr. Dave has been saying, it does not take away the substance that things have gone on beyond the point of, shall I say, tolerance. The worm will turn, and we do not wish that to happen.
So you're in a sense saying there's a sense that people seem to have an impunity, a license to get away with it. I just want to put some figures and then get you in, Mr. Dave. Hate on the rise. Hate speech cases are up from 993 in 2021 to now 1,444 in 22. And this is only as per an NCRB report of reported cases. 668 documented hate speech events against Muslims in 2023 alone, as per the India Hate Lab. 75% of these hate speeches took place in BJP-ruled states and UTs, 25% in opposition-ruled states. 36% hate speech events included a direct call of violence against Muslims, again, source being the India Hate Lab, and 25% hate speech events called for targeting Muslim places of worship, and that's exactly what Nitesh Rane also did. Has hate got normalized, Dushyant Dave? There will be those watching this program and may even have the attitude that, look, people have a right to vent. It seems it's got normalized, that this has become part of normal conversation. What was once seen as unacceptable has got normalized in the last decade. That's what critics say.
Rajdeep, before I answer that, let me read what Dr. Ambedkar had to say on 17th of December 1946 in his first statement before the Constituent Assembly when Constitution was being drafted. and he said this, which is really, I mean, it's a dire warning to us today. He said, I must confess that I am appalled at the idea that anybody in this country should think of solving the political problems of this country by the method of war. Then he says, if there is anybody who has in his mind the project of solving Hindu-Muslim problem by force, which is another name of solving it by war, in order that Muslims may be subjugated and made to surrender without their consent, this country would be involved perpetually in conquering them. Now, these are the words of Dr. Ambedkar on 17th, December 1946. Prime Minister and every leader of BJP constantly, speak about their reverence for Dr. Ambedkar. Why is it that they don't read Dr. Ambedkar? What did he want? What did he really feel?
But may I ask you, Mr. Dave, what about the courts? Today there was an observation by Justice Gawai in the bulldozer justice case that even if someone is accused or convicted, you don't have the right to bulldoze his house without following due process. Why has the court not stopped it until now? I mean, we are in 2024. These bulldozers have been demolishing houses for the last 5 years. The hate speech has carried on and spiraled out of control in the last decade. Why does the court not act?
I must say that I am deeply disappointed with the Supreme Court because, and I have said so more often than not, I mean, if Supreme Court can take suo motu cognizance in an isolated rape and murder case of West Bengal and add fuel to the fire, by that suo motu action, they should have long acted upon these demolitions. I mean, judges after judges have known. It was for the first time that, we moved the Supreme Court when, this Jangirpuri incident took place before Justice Ramna. That was in 2022. We are in 2024. And for last 2 years, the matter had not even seen the light of the day. It was only when I mentioned it last week again before Honorable Justice Gawai. And I must say that Justices Gawai and Justice Vishwanathan have really taken it very seriously upon themselves to hear and resolve this issue. So, and the guidelines that they are proposing, like the Vishaka case, is something which will perhaps go a long way to resolving this issue. But I must confess, and I do agree with Mr. Jain, that the courts are also responsible. If the police is failing, the courts are certainly failing in not acting, in these kind of incidents immediately.
No, why? Why? Is it the law? What explains the unwillingness of the court to act? The law is straight. You've quoted Ambedkar for me. I can quote chapter and verse of what the law of the constitution of the country says. You cannot incite hate between communities is a well-known fact. Why does the court simply not throw the law book evenly at all?
The hate speeches are clearly actionable, and they are liable, to be people are liable to be prosecuted. But yes, even if when the police brings the case, you see, more often than not, the police does not bring the case before the court because of the political pressures. And as Mr. Jain said, rich and the powerful get away, and the powerful includes the politicians.
No, so you see, sir, I can understand the rich and powerful. I will turn to what happened in the train incident in Dhule with an old man. Think about it. I want to play that visual because it is shocking. These were young people going for a police exam in Mumbai. What do? First, a fight over the seat, and then accuse the old man of carrying beef in his with him and start assaulting him. I mean, Najib Jung, you raised your hand. You see, it's one thing for the rich and powerful to get away. They'll get away in all cases. But I find ordinary people get away because they seem to believe they have the right, the impunity to get away, Mr. Jung.
One
by one. Let Mr. Jung come. Yes,
I raised my hand on the issue of courts. Look, the courts is one thing. The problem lies in the district administration. The problem lies with the SHOs. The problem lies with the collectors and the SPs and the DGPs who are heavily communalized today in this country. The divide is so deep. If you go into these WhatsApp groups of the IPS and the IAS officers, you will be ashamed. And unfortunately, that filth has not gone only into the civil services, it is also getting and penetrating into the armed forces. And this is the scheme of the last 10 years. So please wake up. It's just not the courts. The courts are 30 judges or 35 judges sitting. They can't do that on an everyday basis. The basic thing lies in the local thana.
No, you're saying that, sir, you're saying that, remember, you have been among the the prominent Muslims who reached out to the RSS, presumably these were issues you raised with them as well. The fear that certain Hindutva groups could spiral out of control at times. What was the response at that time?
Oh, well, we have met and we are in touch with the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. In fact, we are in touch with the highest echelons, and we are repeatedly assured that they do not want this to be happening. Mm-hmm. We are repeatedly assured that this dialogue with them will continue. We must expand this dialogue, and it takes time for things to be sorted out. As far as I go, I have no doubts to believe that their intentions are kosher, but they request for time. The problem is not with the RSS today. Mm-hmm. The problem is that the foot soldiers are completely out of control. And
you're saying the problem is with the foot soldiers who are out of control. PK Jain, in that intervention by Najib Jung, he made an important point that the system has got communalized, that there are officers, be they collectors, be they senior police officers who've got communalized. So if people who are supposed to be the guardians, protectors, they get communalized, naturally people on the street believe that they have a license then. Is that a fear you have or not?
Rajdeep, I'm sorry, I would not believe in this kind of a generalization. Yes, individuals do get influenced by whatever is happening around them. They do get influenced by the social media and whatever they are reading. There's a lot of poison being spread in the social media and around us, but that does not affect everybody in the discharge of their duties. I can tell you one thing, I can dare speak about Maharashtra. See, any officer, if he has a law and order situation at hand, I have seen most of them acting very, very professionally. There's no reason and there's no way that they would be acting in favor of a particular community. So I would not agree with Mr. Jung about this. But yes, individually, there is a polarization of some thoughts, and that is happening everywhere. What? I can cite similar examples in the case of in the case of all the communities. It is not only one community, all the communities are getting affected.
Whether it is from any community, secondly, has to be condemned.
One more thing. Rajdeep,
yes, please go ahead.
Mr. Jung made a mention about the CM of Assam pointing out to a particular, calling out a reporter of a religious community. See what Mr. Rahul Gandhi has been doing. He's been calling out the names of every jati, in his entire Bharat Jodo Yatra. कौन सी जाति को हो, क्या करते हो, इसलिए तुम इस तरह के क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हो. See, this rot is universal, and unfortunately, unless we start acting at the nick of the time, now is the time to act. Unfortunately, if this action is not taken, the things are going to go down very, very fast.
Okay, so I will give each of you 20 seconds each to tell me how would you act. Mob lynchers in Haryana, FIR filed, few people arrested. Nitesh Rane still is out there unapologetic. How would you act? Dushyant Dave, what would you do? How would you send? What is the exemplary punishment very quickly in a case like this?
Look, Rajdeep, nothing can be done today because I think these are instruments of state policy. And, the foot soldiers are only used by these powerful politicians who are constantly wanting to polarize the nation.
So you're saying there's no solution?
No, there can't be a solution if man at the topmost, at the highest level is not willing to speak one word about it, publicly chide his chief ministers, publicly tell his police officers that you stop this nonsense. How will the message go?
Okay.
It can't go by some
So you're saying the man at the top has to send a powerful signal. Najib Jung, 20 seconds, what would you do? What's the way forward?
I would do what Sardar Patel told the superintendent of police in Delhi in 1947. If the riot doesn't stop, I'll sack you. The SP of any district that such an incident occurs should be sacked immediately. Okay. The collector should be sent on leave. And the next time it happens in the same state, the chief minister should be asked to leave.
Okay.
That is the way to go.
Okay. Mr. PK Jain, what's the solution, sir?
I would agree with Mr. Jung. The law and order is the joint responsibility of the DM and the SP. If the action is not taken, if they are found wanting in that action, right from the Thana to the SP and the DM, right from the Tehsildar to the DM, everybody should be taken to task, suspension, dismissal, whatever come what may.
Okay.
Strict action. If the administration wants, I can assure you, Rajdeep, nothing happens in a particular area.
I
think
take your point, and I will tell you what my late grandfather, who was a distinguished police officer, Mr. Dave knows him well, he was in Gujarat, he said no riot takes place in this country without either the complicity or incompetence or both of those in office. And therefore, whether it is any administrative officer or any politician who is found wanting in his constitutional duty and allows people to get away with what Nitesh Rane has got away with, or with the mob lynchers of Haryana have got away with, or with those people who are on a train and attacked an old man. Unacceptable in a country like this. Is this the India we want? We tell Bangladesh and we lecture Bangladesh, and we need to get our act together, my friends. That's the least that we can expect from those in power at whatever level, in whichever state and whichever party they belong to. Wake up, India, before it is too late. Stop the hate. Stop normalizing hate is all we can say. I thank my guests for joining me and adding much more value to this debate.